My name is Victoria. I am 29 years old, and exactly 12 years ago, my family erased me from their lives. Now, they are hunting me. It started with five words scribbled on the back of a past due electric bill, left on a completely bare kitchen counter. You will figure it out. I was 17. I had just finished a 14-hour double shift at a local diner. My feet were bleeding inside my cheap sneakers. I walked into the house expecting my mother to criticize my uniform or my father to demand a cut of my tips to pay his gambling debts. Instead, I found absolute silence. The furniture was gone. The family portraits were gone. The television was gone. I ran up the stairs to my older brother Lucas's room, empty, just dust outlines where his bed and desk used to be. My parents and my brother had systematically packed their entire existence into a moving truck and vanished across state lines while I was wiping down tables for minimum wage. They did not forget me. They orchestrated my abandonment. They canceled the lease a week prior. The landlord gave me exactly 3 days to vacate the premises before he called the authorities. I had no savings, no credit history, and no family. For the first few weeks, I slept on a piece of cardboard inside a rented, unheated storage unit. I ate spoonfuls of generic peanut butter for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I sneaked into the public recreational center just to shower in freezing water so I would not smell at work. I was a ghost in my own hometown, but betrayal is a phenomenal catalyst. It burns hot and it burns long. I stopped crying on day 4. I realized the only person coming to save me was me. I took extra night shifts. I used the free public library computers to teach myself graphic design, coding, and high-level corporate strategy. I slept 3 hours a night. By age 22, I was securing massive freelance contracts. By age 25, I launched my own digital consulting firm out of a cramped studio apartment. By age 29, I was the sole owner of a company grossing over $5 million annually. I bought a penthouse with biometric security. I built an impenetrable fortress around my life. I was safe, or so I thought. If you are watching this and you have ever had to cut toxic, dangerous people out of your life just to survive, hit the subscribe button right now. You need to hear what happens next. Because what my parents did is every survivor's worst nightmare. 2 months ago, a massive entrepreneurship podcast invited me for an interview. The host asked me about my relentless drive. I let my guard down for exactly 30 seconds and mentioned surviving youth homelessness and total family estrangement. The internet did the rest. That specific audio clip went viral. It hit 12 million views in under 48 hours. My face and my story were plastered across every major social media platform. 4 days later, my private email pinged. The subject line was blank. The sender address was a string of random numbers. The message contained just 2 sentences. "We saw the video. We are so proud of our beautiful daughter." My blood turned to ice. It was my mother. 10 minutes later, another email arrived. This one was from Lucas. By Victoria. "We miss you so much. We have been searching for you for years. Please, let us fix this." I stared at the glowing screen of my laptop, feeling the walls of my penthouse closing in. 12 years of absolute silence. 12 years of pretending I did not exist. And the exact week my net worth becomes public knowledge, they suddenly want to play a happy family. My therapist advised me to ignore them. She told me to protect my peace, but peace is a luxury you cannot afford when predators are circling your perimeter. I did not reply. I decided to watch them instead. I hired a private intelligence firm to run a deep forensic background check on my parents and my brother. I wanted to know exactly what kind of desperation drove them out of hiding. What the investigators found made me physically sick. My parents had not just fallen on hard times. They were financial criminals. They had systematically ruined Lucas's credit, drained his wife's inheritance, and defaulted on over $300,000 of high-interest predatory loans. They were facing federal tax evasion charges. They were drowning, and they needed a life raft. They needed a millionaire daughter. But the cat and mouse game had already begun. I thought I had the upper hand because I knew their secret. I thought I was safe behind my secure servers and my locked doors. Then my phone buzzed. It was a direct message on an encrypted app from a woman named Elena, Lucas's wife, a woman I had never met. The message did not ask for money. It did not ask for forgiveness. It said, "Victoria, do not reply to them. They did not just go bankrupt. They owe money to very dangerous people. And they just gave those people your home address. Get out of your building right now." Then my apartment intercom buzzed. The intercom buzzed. It was a harsh mechanical sound that echoed through my silent penthouse. I did not move. I did not breathe. I pulled up the high-definition security feed on my tablet. The camera showed the lobby of my heavily guarded building. Standing at the front desk were not my parents. They were two men in poorly fitted suits. One had a cauliflower ear, the other had a thick scar running down his neck. They were aggressively leaning over the marble counter, shouting at my night concierge. I activated the audio feed. "Tell Victoria her father sent us," the scarred man growled. "Tell her the grace period expired at midnight. She covers the $500,000. Or we start breaking things, starting with her pretty face." My father did not just give them my address. He used me as his collateral. I did not panic. Panic is for victims, and I resigned from that role 12 years ago. I tapped a single button on my encrypted phone. It connected directly to Vance, the head of my private corporate security team and a former military contractor. "Vance," I said, my voice completely steady. "There are two hostile individuals in my lobby. They are threatening physical violence. Remove them. Do not call the police yet. I want to know exactly who sent them." "Copy that, boss. Give me 90 seconds, Vance replied. I watched the security feed. Exactly 84 seconds later, Vance and three of his massive security operatives flanked the two thugs. The confrontation was brief, silent, and brutal. And Vance pinned the scarred man to the wall, whispered something in his ear, and escorted them out the glass doors. My phone rang. It was Vance. "They are gone. They work for a local underground syndicate. Your father owes them $500,000 in gambling and loan shark debts. He forged your signature on a guarantor document using your old social security number. They think you are legally responsible for his mess. My own father forged my signature to feed me to the wolves." I sat in the dark for a long time. The anger I felt was not hot and chaotic. It was absolute freezing zero. If my parents wanted to play a game of survival, they were about to learn that the girl they left sleeping on a concrete floor was dead. They were dealing with the monster she became. I needed more intelligence. I messaged Elena, my brother Lucas's wife, back on the encrypted app. "Meet me tomorrow at 6 in the morning. The underground parking garage of the Grand Hotel. Bring Lucas. Tell no one." I arrived at 5:45. Vance swept the perimeter. At exactly 6, a battered sedan pulled into the empty concrete structure. Elena stepped out first. She looked terrified, clutching a thick manila folder to her chest. Then Lucas emerged. Seeing my older brother after 12 years was a shock. He was not the arrogant teenager who slammed doors in my face. He was a broken, hollow shell of a man. His shoulders hunched. His eyes darted around the garage like a hunted animal. He looked 30 years older than his actual age. He took one look at me, wrapped in a tailored cashmere coat flanked by private security, and burst into tears. "Victoria," he choked out, falling to his knees on the dirty concrete. "I am so sorry. I am so sorry." I did not comfort him. I did not touch him. I looked at Elena. "Talk." Elena opened the folder with shaking hands. "Your parents moved in with us 2 years ago. They said they lost their business. We believed them, but they were running scams. Your father got involved in illegal sports betting. Your mother was opening credit cards in my name, in Lucas's name, and in yours. They drained our savings. We are facing foreclosure. Then you went viral. The moment your father saw your net worth on that podcast, he told the syndicate that his rich daughter would settle the debt. Why did you not go to the police?" I asked, my voice slicing through the cold morning air. "Because of this," Elena sobbed, pulling a photograph from the folder. She handed it to me. It was a picture of a little girl, maybe 3 years old, playing in a sandbox. The picture was taken through the crosshairs of a telescopic lens. "That is our daughter, Lily," Lucas whispered, still on his knees. "The syndicate sent us that photo yesterday. My father told them that if you refused to pay, they could take Lily as insurance. He offered his own granddaughter to save his skin." The silence in the garage was deafening. Even Vance shifted uncomfortably behind me. My parents were not just toxic, they were a cancer, and you do not negotiate with cancer. You eradicate it. I looked down at my brother. "Get up, Lucas. You are pathetic, but your daughter is innocent. I will protect Elena and Lily. I will move them into a secure, safe house today, but you and I are going to hunt our parents." Lucas nodded weakly, wiping his face. I left the garage and headed straight to my corporate headquarters. I bypassed my assistant and walked directly into the glass office of Marcus, my lead attorney. Marcus was a shark in a tailored suit. He ruined lives for a living, legally. I threw Elena's folder onto his mahogany desk. "Marcus, my parents owe $500,000 to a violent syndicate. They forged my signature. They are threatening a child. I want to crush them." Marcus adjusted his glasses, scanning the documents. We can file identity theft charges. We can get federal protection. We can put them in prison for fraud. Prison is too easy, I said, leaning over his desk, my eyes locked onto his. Prison gives them 3 meals a day and a bed. I want them to feel exactly what I felt 12 years ago. I want them to have absolutely nowhere to go, no one to call, and no hope of survival. Marcus stopped reading. He looked up at me, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across his face. What exactly do you have in mind, Victoria? I want to buy their debt, I stated. Marcus blinked. You want to pay the syndicate? No, I corrected him. I want to purchase the paper. These underground syndicates wash their money through shell companies and collection agencies. Find the shadow corporation that holds my father's debt. Buy it out. Pay double the face value if you have to. I do not care what it costs. I want my holding company to own every single cent my parents owe. I want to be their sole creditor. Marcus leaned back in his leather chair. If you own the debt, you own them. You can seize their assets, freeze their accounts, and legally destroy their lives without breaking a single law. It is brilliant. It is ruthless. Do it, I ordered. And Marcus, put a private investigation team on my mother. Find out every secret she is hiding. I want ammunition. For the next 3 days, I operated out of a war room in my penthouse. Vance coordinated the safe house for Elena and Lily. Lucas stayed with them, entirely locked out of the outside world. I pored over financial records, legal statutes, and surveillance photos. My parents thought they were the predators. They thought they could throw my name to the wolves and walk away clean. They did not realize they had just given me the ultimate weapon. On the 4th day, Marcus called me on the secure line. It is done, Victoria, Marcus said, his voice laced with triumph. We tracked the syndicate's front company. We purchased the debt portfolio for $750,000. The ink is dry. You legally own your father's $500,000 debt. You are the sole holder of the promissory notes. I closed my eyes, letting the immense power wash over me. What about the background check on my mother? You are going to want to see this in person, Marcus replied. I am sending a courier to your office now. Victoria, your mother is hiding something massive, something that predates your abandonment. I was about to ask what it was, but my office phone rang. Not my encrypted cell, the direct landline to my executive desk. Only 3 people in the world had this number. I picked up the receiver. Hello, Victoria. It was my mother. Her voice was dripping with fake sweetness, but there was a razor edge to it. How did you get this number? I asked coldly. A mother always finds a way. She laughed, a dry, grating sound. We need to talk, face to face. Your father and I are downstairs in your building lobby. We bypassed your security. We are coming up. Before I could react, the heavy oak doors of my private office violently swung open. My assistant was on the floor, bleeding from her lip. Standing in the doorway was my father, holding a heavy metal crowbar. My mother stood behind him, clutching a faded canvas bag. They looked feral, desperate, dangerous. Vance was across the building. I was completely alone with the 2 people who destroyed my childhood. My father locked the office door behind him, gripping the crowbar tightly. You think you can hide from us, you ungrateful brat? He spat, stepping toward my desk. You owe us your life, and today you are going to pay up or we are going to take everything from you. My mother unzipped the canvas bag. Inside were thick, printed stacks of paper. We have copies of your forged signatures, she whispered menacingly. We have fake medical records saying you are mentally unstable. We have enough fabricated evidence to destroy your company's stock price by morning. You transfer $2 million into our offshore account right now, or I press send to every major news outlet in the country. They thought they had me cornered. They thought they had the winning hand. I looked at the crowbar. I looked at the blackmail. Then, I slowly reached into my desk drawer. You really think you're the smartest people in the room, do you not? I asked, my voice dangerously calm as my fingers wrapped around the cold steel hidden in the drawer. Cliffhanger cook man thuk gyuk sem tip. My father raised the crowbar, a terrifying grin on his face. Last chance, Victoria. Pay us or lose everything. I pulled my hand out of the drawer and placed the object firmly on the mahogany desk. My parents froze, the blood instantly draining from their faces. I am not paying you anything, I whispered, because as of 10 minutes ago, I own you. I am not paying you anything, I whispered, the silence in the room suddenly feeling heavy enough to crush bone. Because as of 10 minutes ago, I own you. My father paused. The heavy metal crowbar hovered in the air, his knuckles white. The terrifying, arrogant grin slowly slid off his face, replaced by a deep, primal confusion. I reached into the desk drawer and pulled out a thick, embossed legal document. I dropped it onto the mahogany wood. It landed with a heavy thud. Notice of Assignment of Debt. I read the title out loud, my voice echoing in the soundproof office. Do you know what that means, Father? It means the underground syndicate you owed $500,000 to no longer holds your paper. My private holding corporation bought it. I paid them $750,000 cash to walk away. You do not owe a violent mob boss anymore. You owe me. My mother let out a sharp, breathless gasp. The canvas bag full of blackmail materials trembled in her hands. You are lying, my father spat, though his voice shook. He lowered the crowbar an inch. You cannot do that. I am a multimillionaire with a team of corporate assassins masquerading as lawyers, I said, leaning back in my leather executive chair. I can do absolutely anything I want. Right now, I am your sole legal creditor. I hold the deed to your miserable motel. I hold the liens on your vehicles. I own every single asset attached to your name. And because you defaulted on the original terms 3 days ago, I have the legal right to seize it all. Immediately. The reality of the situation hit them like a physical blow. My father dropped the crowbar, and it clattered against the marble floor. He suddenly looked like a very small, very old, very pathetic man. Victoria, please, my mother started, her voice immediately shifting into the high-pitched, whiny tone she used when she wanted sympathy. We are your family. We were desperate. We just wanted— Stop, I commanded. The word cracked like a whip. Do not ever use that word in my presence again. You are not my family. You are parasites. I picked up the second folder on my desk, the one Marcus had sent up just moments before they breached my doors. You see, for 12 years, I asked myself the same question every single night. I said softly, tracing the edge of the folder. Why me? Why did you take Lucas and leave me behind? You told Lucas it was because I was strong. You told yourselves it was because you were broke. But my investigators found the truth. They found the secret you have been hiding since I was 16. My mother's face went entirely ashen. The blood drained from her lips. She took a step back, shaking her head. No, no, Victoria, do not. I opened the folder. My biological grandfather on my father's side, I began, reading the highlighted bank statements. A man I was told died penniless. He did not. He left a generational trust fund, $250,000. But there was a stipulation in the will. The money was not for you. It was designated strictly for his grandchildren. Lucas got his half when he turned 18, but you convinced Lucas to invest his half into your failing business, and you lost it all. My father stared at the floor, breathing heavily. But my half, I continued, feeling a cold and dark satisfaction rising in my chest. My half was locked in a secure trust until my 18th birthday. I was 17 when you left, 1 year away from accessing $250,000. I pulled out a single sheet of paper and slid it across the desk. It was a scanned copy of a legal withdrawal form. You did not run away because you were poor, I stated, my voice dropping to a glacial whisper. You ran away because you forged my signature. You emancipated me legally without my knowledge, claimed I had moved out, and liquidated my entire trust fund early. You stole $250,000 from your own teenage daughter, and you knew that the second I turned 18, the bank would notify me, and you would go to federal prison for wire fraud. The silence that followed was absolute. I had 12 years of wondering what was wrong with me. 12 years of thinking I was unlovable. 12 years of therapy, of nightmares, of sleeping on concrete floors. It was never about me, it was about greed. Pure, unadulterated, disgusting greed. You abandoned me to cover up a felony? I said. My mother fell to her knees, weeping hysterically. We meant to pay it back. We just needed a bridge loan for the business. The investments went bad, Victoria. We panicked. We were terrified. And now, I stood up, towering over them from behind my desk. You should be. I pressed a button on my intercom. Vance, come in. The heavy oak doors opened immediately. Vance stepped in, accompanied by Marcus. My lawyer looked at my parents with the kind of disgust usually reserved for cockroaches. Marcus, explain their options, I said, turning to look out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city skyline. I did not want to look at their faces anymore. It is quite simple, Marcus began, his voice smooth and professional. Option 1, we hand this folder to the district attorney. We have concrete proof of federal wire fraud, identity theft, and extortion. Given the amounts involved, you will both face a minimum of 15 to 20 years in a federal penitentiary. You will die in a concrete box." My mother sobbed louder. My father just stared blankly at the wall. Option 2. Marcus continued, placing a stack of legal documents on the coffee table. "You sign these papers. Document A is a full, legally binding confession to the theft of the trust fund and the recent extortion attempt. We will hold this in escrow. Document B is an absolute transfer of all your remaining physical and liquid assets to Victoria's holding company to settle your syndicate debt. Document C is a permanent, lifetime non-disclosure agreement and a restraining order. You will never speak Victoria's name, Lucas's name, Elena's name, or Lily's name again. You will never come within 1,000 miles of this city. You will vanish." "If we sign over our assets," my father croaked, his voice cracking, "we will have absolutely nothing. No money, no home. We will be on the street." I turned around. I looked him dead in the eye. "You will figure it out," I said. The words hung in the air, echoing the exact note they left for me 12 years ago. It was the most profound, intoxicating moment of my entire life. The circle was closed. The trauma was returned to its rightful owners. They signed. They sat on the edge of the leather sofa, their hands shaking violently, and signed away their entire lives. They surrendered their parental rights to ever see their grandchild. They surrendered their freedom. They surrendered their voices. When the ink was dry, Vance escorted them out of the building. I watched them walk out of my office. Their shoulders were slumped, their heads were bowed. They looked exactly like what they were: broken, defeated criminals who had just lost the most important game of their lives. Marcus packed up the documents, offering me a rare, genuine smile. "Brilliant, Victoria. Truly brilliant. They are completely neutralized." "Thank you, Marcus. Send Elena and Lucas a message. Tell them the threat is eliminated. They can go home," I said, all feeling a massive weight lifting off my chest. I could finally breathe. I poured myself a glass of expensive bourbon, taking a long, slow sip. The burning sensation in my throat felt like victory. I thought it was over. I thought the nightmare had finally ended. I was wrong. 10 minutes later, the office doors opened again. It was Vance, but he was not walking with the calm, collected stride of a security professional who just handled a routine eviction. He was moving fast. His jaw was clenched tight. "Boss," Vance said, his voice unusually tense. He walked up to my desk and placed a cheap disposable burner phone on the mahogany wood. "I confiscated this from your father before I threw him out of the building," Vance explained. I ran a quick diagnostic to see if he was recording the conversation. "And?" I asked, the glass of bourbon freezing halfway to my mouth. "He was not recording," Vance said grimly, "but he was texting someone. Look at the last sent message." I picked up the cheap plastic phone. The screen was cracked, but the text message was perfectly legible. It was sent exactly 3 minutes before my parents breached my office doors. The message read, "We are in the elevator. Disable the cameras on the executive floor now. Have the account routing numbers ready for the wire transfer." I stared at the screen, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. My building requires biometric scans, key cards, and physical security clearance just to enter the lobby. The executive elevator requires a retina scan. There was absolutely no way two desperate, broke criminals bypassed a multi-million-dollar security system by themselves. "Oh, Vance," I whispered, the terrifying realization washing over me. "I know," Vance said, his hand dropping to the tactical radio on his belt. "They did not break in, Victoria. Someone let them in. The rat was inside the house." The rat was inside the house. I stared at the cracked screen of my father's burner phone. The executive elevator in my building does not have buttons. It operates entirely on biometric retina scans. Only 4 people in the entire world had clearance to bypass the lobby and bring a guest directly to my floor. Me, Vance, Marcus, and my chief financial officer, David. David, the man I trusted to manage my $5 million empire, the man who sat at my dining table. "Bring him to me," I told Vance, "right now." Vance did not ask questions. He left the office. 10 minutes later, the oak doors opened. David walked in. He was sweating through his expensive designer suit. He looked at the empty leather sofa where my parents had just signed their lives away. He looked at the shattered glass on the floor. Then he looked at me. "Victoria," David stammered, his eyes darting to Vance, who stood silently blocking the exit. "Is everything all right? Security said there was an incident." I picked up the burner phone and slid it across the long mahogany table. It stopped right at his fingertips. My father is a pathetic, desperate man, I said, my voice eerily calm. But he is also a lifelong scam artist. He knows how to find people's weaknesses. While Marcus and I were busy buying out his syndicate debt, my father was doing his own research. He found out you have a severe offshore gambling addiction, David. He found out you owe over $800,000 to the exact same underground syndicate. David's face turned the color of ash. His knees buckled slightly, and he had to grab the back of a chair to stay standing. They offered you a deal, did they not? I continued, standing up and walking slowly toward him. They promised you $1 million, half of the extortion money. All you had to do was grant them executive access, disable the cameras for 20 minutes, and process the wire transfer once they forced me to authorize it. Victoria, please, you have to understand, David choked out, tears instantly streaming down his face. The syndicate was threatening my wife. They said they would hurt her. I was terrified. Your father said nobody would get physically hurt. He said you had the money. He said it was just a family dispute. You let two desperate, violent criminals into my private sanctuary, I whispered, standing inches from his face. You put my life and the life of my assistant in direct physical danger to cover your own gambling debts. I am sorry, he sobbed, completely breaking down. I am so sorry. I do not care, I replied, turning my back to him. I walked back to my desk and picked up my encrypted phone. Marcus, I said as my lawyer answered, David is the rat. He conspired to commit federal extortion and corporate espionage. I want his employment terminated immediately, freeze all his corporate accounts, then forward his offshore gambling records and this confession to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Victoria, please, you will ruin my life. I will go to prison, David screamed, falling to his knees. I looked down at him with absolute freezing indifference. You ruined your own life, David. Vance, get this garbage out of my building. Vance grabbed David by the collar of his expensive suit and dragged him out of the office. The heavy oak doors clicked shut. Silence returned to the penthouse. But this time, it was not the terrifying silence of an empty house at 17. It was the peaceful, golden silence of total victory. The cancer was completely eradicated. Every single threat was neutralized. 6 months later, I'm standing on the balcony of my penthouse, looking out over the glittering city skyline. The evening air is warm. Inside my living room, I can hear the sounds of chaos, good chaos. Lucas is in my kitchen and arguing loudly with Elena about the correct way to boil pasta. My niece Lily is running around the sofa, wearing a plastic princess tiara, chasing my new golden retriever puppy. The apartment smells like garlic, fresh basil, and expensive wine. It is Sunday family dinner. A lot has changed in 6 months. David is currently serving a 10-year sentence in a federal penitentiary for conspiracy and wire fraud. My corporate empire is stronger than ever. Lucas quit his miserable accounting job and is now managing the philanthropic foundation I started, which provides housing and financial literacy to homeless teenagers. And my parents, true to the contract they signed, they vanished. Stripped of all their assets to pay the syndicate, they were left with absolutely nothing. My private investigators keep a distant eye on them, just to ensure the restraining order is maintained. They live in a dilapidated, rusted trailer park 2 states away. My father works the night shift at a gas station. My mother cleans motel rooms. They have no savings, they have no retirement, and they have no family. They are living the exact life they forced upon me 12 years ago. Sometimes people ask me if I will ever forgive them. They ask if carrying all this boundary setting is exhausting. They tell me that holding on to the past is toxic. I just smile, because they do not understand. I am not holding on to the past. I conquered it. Forgiveness is a beautiful concept, but it is not a requirement for healing. You do not have to forgive the people who threw you to the wolves. You just have to make sure you survive the woods. And then you build a house made of bricks so the wolves can never get in again. I walk back inside the penthouse. Lily runs up to me, grabbing my leg. Auntie Victoria, she laughs, her eyes bright and full of innocent trust. Look at my crown. I pick her up, holding her close to my chest. I look at my brother, who gives me a warm, genuine smile. I look at Elena, who pours me a glass of wine. My apartment, once a cold fortress designed to keep the world out, is now filled with blinding, beautiful light. 12 years ago, I came home to an empty house and a note that said, "You will figure it out." It was the cruelest thing I had ever read. But as I look around my living room at the people who love me not for my bank account, but for who I am, I realize something profound. They were right. I did figure it out. Not the way they intended, but I figured out how to build an empire. I figured out how to survive. And most importantly, I figured out what real love looks like. I'm not defined by the family that abandoned me. I'm defined by the family I chose to create, and they will never, ever be allowed inside.